Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke credited for country's economic success on the heels of his imminent departure. High-powered weapons seized in St. James. And later in sports, Jamaica's athletes begin their campaign at World Under-20 Championship. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kerry Simpson. Here are the details. We begin this afternoon with more reactions to news that Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke is leaving the government to take up a top position at the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Cabinet member and local government minister Desmond McKenzie says Dr. Clarke must be credited for the state of the country's economy.
The economy is in a good place. And even us today is in a better place because of the work of Dr. Nigel Clarke. Because the world recognizes what he has done as a Minister of Finance, that the world wants him to work for them.
He reasons the entire country should be proud of Dr. Clarke.
Without his effort, we would not be in the position that we are today. He's a part of a government that has taken into consideration what we need to protect us in disaster. We have various policies, insurance, that the country will benefit from. And we have to thank that vision of Nigel Clarke.
Education Minister Favour Williams has provided an explanation for the poor performance of some students in this year's sitting of CSEC mathematics examination. Details in this report.
Education Minister Favour Williams says despite the unsatisfactory performance of some students in this year's CSEC exams, it should not be compared to the results from 2023. The minister, while addressing a Cape CSEC press conference in Kingston on Monday, explained why.
If you recall, during the peak of the exam season in 2023, 2 breaches were recorded. The first breach was on May 17, 2023, when the CSEC Math Paper 2 was leaked. CXC reported that it had determined the source of the leak and to mitigate, and was forced to use a modified approach where students were graded based on their SBAs and Paper 1.
It is why she's urging persons to proceed with caution.
I think the best year for comparison would be 2022, because in that year, the students would have sat Paper 1, Paper 2, and had the school-based assessment as well. So public schools, the results there was 37.3% in 2022 versus 38.9% for public schools in 2024.
In the meantime, the Education Minister says more effort is to be placed on improving the outcomes for mathematics in external examinations. She says the ministry will have to redouble its effort and implement an emergency plan for math to help students. Stakeholders are worried the overall weaknesses of many students in the core subject areas such as mathematics could have a negative impact on the country's push to build out its science, technology, engineering and math industries. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
Transport centers across the country are facing a growing list of problems, which makes the commuting experience difficult. Transport Minister Darrell Vass says upgrades have started and much more are needed. Romardo Lyons reports.
Outdated infrastructure, inadequate facilities. Just a few of the issues plaguing the transport sector. And the Transport Minister says for quite some time, these issues have been a roadblock for efficiency.
We have different classifications. You have bus bays, you have taxi parks, you have bus parks, you have
laybys, etc. And the conditions are totally unacceptable because there's no provision for the disabled. There's no provisions for shelter. There's no provisions for seating. And basically, people are out there for hours at a time trying to get transportation to go about their business.
Streetlights have been recently installed at bus bays in downtown Kingston, but much more is needed. Among them, safety rails, seats, and signage. Now, earlier this year, an assessment was ordered by the Transport Authority for all transport centres across the island. The minister says this document is being used as a template to see how to move forward. But there's one fundamental problem.
The Transport Authority, which falls under me, does not operate them. They are mostly operated by the municipal corporations. And the fact of the matter is that the municipal corporations do not have the funding that is required to maintain them and upgrade them. So there has to be a holistic look, which I've said before, as to how to treat with these issues.
Mr. Vaz says without funding, the transport centres cannot be properly maintained.
That's the reason why most of these transport centres are not fully utilized, because persons don't have the facilities. Simple things like bathrooms are not functional, and therefore the operators prefer to stay outside of the park, which causes chaos and confusion on the streets.
Romarda Lyons, TVJ News.
To a TVJ News follow-up now. The Trelawney police are reporting a significant breakthrough in the brutal rape and murder of 15-year-old Jamia Cole. The update follows a robust one-year investigation into the case, which also involved the violent assault of 3 of Jamila's female relatives at their Albertown home in August of last year. Crime officer in charge of the Trelawney Police Division, Deputy Superintendent Clive Wright, says charges were laid against several men.
Timoy Brown, OC Big Reds, Tyrese Brown, OC Sheetsman. They have all been charged for various offenses, which includes capital murder, conspiracy to burglary, rape, wounding with intent, grievous bodily harm with intent to commit murder. Being that they acted together, they were also charged for being a part of a criminal organization.
Young Cole and her family members were at home when 2 masked men gained access through a window, dragged them into bushes and beat them repeatedly with blunt objects. The police say their investigation would not have been a success without the help of law-abiding residents.
Say thank you to the members of the community who were integral in this investigation, as they gave the full support to the investigative team, who, although it took us a year to effectively bring somewhat of a closure to this investigation, we continued relentlessly with the help of the citizens and the dedication of the investigators here in Trelawney.
2 high-powered rifles, an M16 and an AR-15 were seized in Granville, St. James Monday morning. This brings to 72 the total number of illegal firearms seized in the parish this year, including 10 rifles. Head of the St. James Police, Superintendent Aaron Samuels, explained that efforts to capture wanted individuals and seize illegal weapons will continue.
To be exact, where these 2 rifles were found. The rifles were found along with the rifles 22 5.56 round, which includes 19 what they call tracer rounds, which helps the shooter to be more accurate and see where the projectile is headed. This is a major success for the St. James Division, bringing to 72 the number of weapons seized since the start of the year. We have seized 10 rifles out of these 72, with our last 6 weapons being seized over the last 2 weeks. Yesterday, we were able to seize another weapon, which is a Glock pistol, when we also arrested St. James' most wanted, Mr. Joseph Mackenzie, OC Jail, who was wanted for numerous murders and shootings across the division. We are very happy with the successes of the division. The men and women of the division are working very hard to ensure the safety and security of persons within the division. And our operations officer, he's leading the charge for Operation Storm, along with our men and women, and we are reaping some real successes. Since the start of the year, we have 43 less murders, which is a 33% reduction in murders since the start of the year. We intend to continue our assault, and we want to ensure that we rid the streets of as many weapons as we can and put behind bars as many wanted persons and persons of interest.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Residents of Mason Hall, St. Mary can now breathe a sigh of relief as the government has started work to ensure the area gets running water by the end of this year. Representatives from the National Water Commission and Rural Water were in the area recently, where they started the water distribution, storage and project lift. The project is expected to benefit the thousands of residents in the area who have been without running water from as far back as 2007. Water Minister Matthew Samuda says this is a phased project which will cost up to $1 billion.
And as you see, it's not a empty commitment. It is a commitment coming to life that the citizens are very happy for. There are many components to this project. This is a phased implementation. The total Mason Hall distribution system will require in excess of $1 billion Jamaican dollars. That is a part of the CDB funded initiative, which is to help rural communities connect ahead of our Vision 2030 and SDG 6 target for 2030.
Member of Parliament for St. Mary Western, Robert Montague, shared that there will be additional water projects carried out for the constituency.
There is another project less than 3 miles away from here, the Wentworth Galena project, where the wonderful community of Wentworth is finally getting new pipes to bring up water into the community. Then the minister has just informed me that the long-awaited Labyrinth White River to Gale pipeline is also going to be starting very, very soon. And then Rural Water has a number of smaller springs, the expansion of the Oxford Supply, the Carrinal Spring, the Commerce Spring, to putting solar pumps on these so that the communities can get water.
United Oil and Gas, UOG, the company licensed to search for oil offshore Jamaica in the Walton Morant area, is denying claims that it has discovered oil off the island's coast. The company responded to reports on social media claiming an oil discovery. In a press release, the company said it has drilled no wells in the Walton Morant license, and therefore no commercial oil or gas discovery has been made. On Monday, the Energy Minister, Daryl Vaz, also dismissed the claims as fake news. It's now time for the Business Minute.
Jamaica received about $5.9 billion in financing from the Caribbean Development Bank CDB last year. In its latest economic and social survey, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, says these funds were for the execution of 3 projects under the cooperation program. CDB says these resources were bolstered by government funds of $170.4 million. Additionally, the CDB administered a total of $8.96 billion in grant resources from trust funds for 5 projects to promote agricultural development, improve export capacity, and food management systems. Further afield, Apple announced the date of its next major event, where the iPhone 16 is expected to be launched. The tech giant is hosting a special event on September 9 with the tagline, "It's Glow Time." It's not clear what glow time is referring to, but embedded artificial intelligence is expected to be a key feature of Apple's newest phone. The device is expected to be the first to be designed fully with AI in mind. The September 9 event will take place at 10 a.m. Pacific Time at the Steve Jobs Theatre in Apple Park and will be streamed online. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Hal Shane Burke.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Association of Haitian Journalists has requested a meeting with Inspector General Pierre-René Francois to discuss allegations of journalists' ties to criminal gangs in Haiti. Haiti, struggling with severe gang violence and a humanitarian crisis, has lacked an elected leader since Jovenel Moïse's assassination in 2021. The UN reports widespread displacement and hunger, with Kenya assisting in police efforts. Elections are anticipated by the end of 2025. And on the international scene, Honduras is facing a severe dengue outbreak with over 100,000 cases this year. The government has declared a state of emergency and initiated Day D to remove mosquito breeding sites. On August 26, International Dengue Day, efforts to fight the disease are being intensified. Authorities have reported 137 deaths and will distribute 54,000 doses of dengue vaccines to children in October. Climate change is worsening the situation by making mosquitoes harder to control. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Nakinsky Robinson.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.